Hello and welcome back to AC's Make and Repair. Today I'm going to show you some common joints and some not so common joints to do on a sliding compound miter saw. They're very basic joints to do. I think the compound sliding miter saw is one of the most underutilised tools in a workshop, and a lot of people own one. Some of you might have noticed this little scar on my face. That's due to a mishap at work. I do tree lopping and a branch come back on me the wrong way, and it actually cut my face a bit and bruised my face a bit, but it's healing well. So join me for this time. I'll show you some of the joints we're going to do, and then we'll go through a step-by-step process how to do them. Okay, the first joint that we're going to cover, it's a basic joint. It's called a butt joint. It's where you butt one piece of timber up against the other. Now you might butt it up like that. It could be butted like that. It could be butted like that. Alternately, it can be butted like that. And it can be butted like that. It's very common in framing for houses to be butted like that. So that's the butt joint. But it lacks strength unless you use some sort of fastness. You could use a nail in this way. You could use screws in that way. You could even dowel it to make it a stronger joint, or even biscuit it. That makes it a stronger joint. On its own, just with glue, it's not that strong. Okay, the next joint is a mitre joint. Now basically a mitre is any angular cut. Now in this case it's a 45-degree mitre on each piece of timber, which makes a 90-degree angle. Alternatively, you can have a mitre that goes like that up against a piece of timber like that to act as a bracing. Like on this piece of timber here. A simple butt joint is strengthened not only by mechanical fixings with nails, but also it has a mitred brace across the corner. I just put this together quickly just to show you what it would work like. It has strengthened the corner much. Also, on their own, a mitred joint isn't very strong. It needs some sort of strengthening too. Now you might choose to glue it and nail it from the outside, or you might choose to put a spline in the back. So in other words, cut that groove out of there like that and push a piece of timber in there like there across the corner. I'll shift my arm out of the road so you can see. So you might choose to put a piece of timber across the corner, cut that out and put the timber out of the corner. Alternatively, you might be able to cut a groove using your compound slide miter saw and put a little fillet in here too, or another little spline you might call it in there too. It's a bit small to put dowels in though. You can use biscuits, small biscuits on bigger pieces of timber, or bigger biscuits on bigger pieces of timber. But that's a mitre joint. That's handy for frames, handy for architraves, handy for mouldings. Very good joint for neatness and finishing work. The next four joints I'm going to show you involve the adjustment height of your blade on your compound slide miter saw. These are a little advanced, but they're still basic joints. When you adjust your blade so it runs parallel with your base but not below your base, you can cut other joints. This is a simple rebate joint. We've cut a simple rebate in this corner, which enables this part to butt in, but it also has a shoulder to sit up against, which makes it much stronger. You can see that there like that. You can fasten it through here with nails. You could even, on bigger stock, maybe even use a dowel or a biscuit. Only on bigger stock though. On small stock, you can't. You may even be able to make this part here thinner. It's entirely up to you. But that's a rebate joint. You could even put a groove like that as a shoulder up against another piece of timber like that. And that's quite fine too, using the rebate like that. Okay, this is the half lap joint. It's made by cutting two pieces of corresponding timber the same and halfway through, identically halfway through like this. So it's simply crossed over halfways like that, as you can see, like that. Now, on its own, it's not that strong either. You may need some sort of fixing here, like maybe a dowel. The shoulder though gives it great strength. If you put a fixing through the middle as well, besides glue, you may not need glue if you're using a plywood frame on a bracing on the outside, but if you're not, you'll need some sort of fixing on the middle. But it gives great strength because of the shoulder here and the shoulder here. So that is the half lap. I've just done these quickly to show you how it works, but you can cut all these simply by setting the depth of your blade to half the thickness of this timber and doing some slide cuts, only a blade thickness apart. You'll see how I do them when I show you the process here. Okay, the next one is a cross lap joint. We used to call this a half check joint, I'm sure, but it's basically two bits of timber like this, corresponding, cut halfway through, matching to correlate with each other. Then you just put them over the top. I've made this joint loose at the moment just to show you how it's done, but you can make them very, very tight, and they're a very strong joint, giving great strength this way. Very, very good joint. And on bigger stock, say if this stock was bigger and taller, you can do that all the way halfway through and do some ornate legs to the bottom small tables even. It's a very handy joint and has a lot of strength on its own if it's in bigger stock and glued together. Even with that alone, you could glue that, it'll be very strong. It's a good joint. Okay, this is a T-lap type of joint. It takes half of the crosshatch joint, basically, and you take a half check joint, the same size corresponding, and you can place it over that and you get a strong joint that gives you great strength this way as well. Very good. Once you do it nice and tight, you get a nice right angle joint. Good for bracing the back of frames on certain things. There is a variation of this, and this is it here. It basically shows here you can have a piece of timber coming in, and this part here is checked out to hold this part. It's housed in. Many old frames many years ago on buildings we used this way. Gave great strength to the frames. A procedure that could be done still. Okay, for a standard butt joint, just using scrap timber, I'll just show you how to do this. Cut the end of your timber nice and square. Now you can use the joint that way. You could use the joint that way. You could use it even that way for a frame if you needed to. You could dowel through that corner. That's just a standard butt joint. You could use it vertically like this if you wanted, in the middle even, like that. You could use it if you desired. Many, many combinations for the butt joint. Now for a mitre joint, we'll go just to a basic 45 degree. You can do different other angles if you desire. So we're going to do a frame with a mitre. So I've cut one half of the 45. I'll place my piece of timber in here. And now I'll cut the other half of the 45. There is our 45 degree mitre joint. Alternately, we can do it this way as well. I'll show you this way as well. We can cut our 45 down like that. The 45 down like this. And I'll show you this way up. There is our mitered joint there for our 45. Okay, so you can use that, you could cut some picture frames or a little box or whatever and fasten it in the corners with a some sort of fixing. I'll just return this back to zero now. Like I said, you can use any desired angle you want really, and cut it on a compound slide miter saw. Very handy tool. Now for the rebate joint. So I want to effectively do a joint that cuts away this section of the timber so that timber there can go in there like that. Just like that. You might want to use it on a draw side or a little box, etc. So that just shows you where it goes. I'll show you how to mark that out. One thing you will have to do is you'll have to have a means of adjusting with your sliding compound saw. So this is the adjustment screw here, like I've shown you before. What that does is it adjusts the blade up and down. So as you slide it backwards and forwards, the blade will run parallel, the depth of the blade will run parallel to the base because of your slide. And hence you can do joints with it. You can even trench out some or check out some plates for walls. You can do a lot of joinery using a compound slide. Okay, so what I'll do is I've already set it to, this is my height, so I've already adjusted that screw up and down to the height, and that's it there, and that's down to halfway. So all I need to do now is mark the distance back that I want to go. So I'll put that up against that piece of timber like that. That gives it a nice flat surface to work on. I then take a pencil, mark a pencil mark like that. All that remains to do is just cut this piece out, and we'll do that by bringing the saw down, cutting along beside the line, and I'll show you what happens then. And then we do a series of cuts, just blade thickness cuts, and that actually removes all this material here. I'll show you here. So I'll go to my mark, depending on where I want my timber to finish. Now it's important you slide all the way through. This piece of wood here is to bring my stock out, because if I was to leave it up against the normal fence, it wouldn't cut parallel. Parallel stops here, so it will only be parallel there. So I needed to put that piece of wood there to bring it out so it runs the cut parallel. So if you look carefully, there we have it with the groove I've already cut. And what we're going to do is a series of those grooves now, all the way to the end, and it'll effectively cut the joint for us. I might zoom in a little bit to do that. There we go. Any high pressure will just go back over. Okay. So that's all we have. We have it cut out like that. Now you might want to take a wood chisel and just smooth it off a bit more, or clean the corner out in here with a chisel. That's up to you entirely. If it's neat, you shouldn't have to. But like I say, you could just take the chisel, take any high points off if you want to. That's up to you. It's quite good. If you have a good sharp blade and etc., it should cut it out quite neat anyhow. Okay, so here is our joint. There is our joint. to show you how that's done. And now you can have that, like I said, a drawer front box. You can nail through here or screw through there. It's entirely up to you. Alright, now I'm going to do the half check. And it's going to be two ends. So basically all it is, it's just a bigger version of this. Instead of going just that distance back, and that is a half check anyhow to a certain extent, we're going to put it up against it. We'll go the full distance back of the timber, and we're going to do it on both sides this time. So that's that. So I'll put that down. Now I'll cut that one out. Okay, that's what you've got. Now what we're going to do is we're going to cut a corresponding one the same, and then lap them over, and that will bring them flush. Alternatively, if you wanted to have it like that, you could have it like that for whatever you wanted it or needed it for. So I'll mark that out and cut the next one. I'll show you what the finish is like. Marking it the same way. Just put it up against your thing or hold it by hand. Scribe a mark. And it's just a matter of doing the same sort of cuts as we just did. Line up your mark. Be careful to get it right. Okay, so you have two corresponding pieces, and they basically just lap over like that and lap over like that. That gives you an idea what it's like. Now, if you just glued it together, it wouldn't be that strong. Some people do a dowel. Just drill if you want to use a 3/8 dowel, you just drill a hole there and put a piece of 3/8 dowel, cut it off and sand it flush. That gives it mechanical strengthness. Some people have even said that they've tried a biscuit. I don't know how you'd fit a little biscuit in there. You'd be going, but I think that is a quite good joint in the sense that it gives a rigidity on the corner. If it was just a lap joint like that or a butt joint without anything spectacular or just a couple of screws, there's a tendency to go like that. When you've got two shoulders, like this shoulder and this shoulder touching, it definitely gives some stability to it and strength to it. Alright, so that is half flap. Now there is another one, it's called a half check, and I'll just show you what that looks like. That basically is two pieces cut out like that, and you lay them over like that, and you end up with something like that. So like I said, it's two pieces cut out like that, same technique, laid over like that, and then you can make them nice and tight according to what you want. That's just for clarity, I've done it like that, and it goes over like that. As you can see, gives tremendous strength without even glue. Alternatively, you can even have a middle lap. I'll show you how that works. I'll get this one here, that might be a little bit looser. There we go. You could even do that where it goes in like a T-shape there, like that there, and like that there. Brings it down flush. You could use it on a cupboard frame of some sort. That's quite good too. Same process. There's very really a heap of stuff you can do with a compound miter saw. I'll just show you if I can another thing, if I can. I'll just see what I can do here. we might be able to do a centre trench just to show you that too. I'll just do that for you now. I'll just square them up and that'll get me started. So I square the mark, I get my piece of timber, line it up, excuse me, line it up. This is just for the sake of ideas. Line it up. This gives me the exact thickness of the timber. Scribe another mark, bring it over, line it up to my mark. I'm just going to check that now, just before I go any further. Oh, just a whisker has to come out of it. Once you turn that around so I can see the mark. Otherwise it's going to be very hard to see the mark. Alright. Don't need too much of it. That should do it. There you go. So that's just another thing you can do with it. Now, like I said, mechanical strength wise, you know, if I'd made that really snug tight, which I haven't, that is very strong, and you can nail through here. Many years ago, they used to check out all wall frames the same way. They'd cut it out with the handsaw and chisel, and they'd put the studs vertically in like that. You didn't go halfway. You usually went on a 2-inch frame. You'd go about ½ inch in, and you'd make your studs recess in it. It gave great mechanical strength to the framing of a building. But there you have it. And you could even make a slide setup if you wanted something too. But you can use a compound slide miter saw to do a lot of things. Alright, thanks for watching, and like and subscribe if you like the video, please.